Alleluia, 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 alleluia. Blessed are you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth. You have revealed to little ones the mysteries of the kingdom. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord.
At that time, Jesus exclaimed, I give praise to you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, for although you have hidden these things from the wise and the learned, you have revealed them to little ones. Yes, Father, such has been your gracious will. All things have been handed over to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son wishes to reveal him. Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart. You will find rest for yourselves, for my yoke is easy and my burden light. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Good evening, everyone. Back in 2005, I had the privilege and the blessing to go to Italy on a pilgrimage. I had just been ordained a deacon, and I was on my way to being ordained a priest. And I loved the fact that the province was going to take us. I didn't like the fact, though, that I was going to have to watch over two different youth groups. I was going to have to be kind of like a chaperone. So I was really thrilled about going to Italy, but not so thrilled about being a chaperone. And also, pilgrimages, you don't really have much time to yourself. You're kind of like human cattle, right? You go from one place to the next, on the bus, off the bus, walk here, walk there. Nevertheless, it was still a beautiful trip. But I want to share with you a conversation that I had with a waiter in a place called Trastevere. I don't know if any of you have ever been there. It's a beautiful place. It's like 5 blocks all coming into one square, beautiful church. There's a fountain kind of thing in the middle, a few restaurants there. And in our conversation, he asked me simply, oh, are you on vacation? I said, no, it's a pilgrimage, so there's a lot of work involved. So he said, oh, too bad you couldn't come on vacation. You could stay for quite some time. And I said, well, they're counting it as vacation as well. So typically as seminarians, we only got 2 weeks. So when I told him that, he's like, 2 weeks? And I said, usually in America, people get somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks, depending on time of service, where they work. He says, oh, that's really bad. He says, in Italy and most of Europe, we get close to 45 days vacation. Can you imagine that? 45 days, huh? Your employer would have to pay you almost for 6.5 weeks of time off, right? And so I looked it up. I wanted to make sure that he wasn't kind of, exaggerating and this kind of thing, and it's true. It's right around 44 days for most of Europeans. In Italy, about 43, 44 days kind of hits the average. And I thought about that when I got back home, and I said, well, we should really make a push in our society. Why doesn't our society have that much time off? Well, first of all, in Western culture, we're kind of schooled and disciplined and taught right away, you got to stay busy, huh? It came out of a Puritan type of atmosphere and culture that, what do they say, idle hands are the devil's workshop or something like this. So you have to stay busy all the time to distract yourself from temptations. And then we built up this work ethic. You have to work, and contribute to society. And on some level, those things are true, right? We should take great dignity in work and the things that we accomplish to help better ourselves, our local community, the nation, and all of it. So that, in some sense, is true. And also, you do want to distract yourself from temptation. So staying busy, to some extent, is good. But if we were paying attention to tonight's gospel, I think that the Europeans understand it a little bit better than us. Jesus says, "Come to me, all you are burdened, and rest, and find learning in me, and rest in me." And if you think about it, even in our Christian ethos in the United States and in Western culture, even there you have to remain busy. I'll give you an example, one that is not by words, but just by show. So let's see how everybody feels for just a moment. How do you like the awkward silence, huh? We're not used to that. We're not used to that, even in our personal lives. Think about everything we do. We're always on. It's not just the phone, huh? The TV's always on, the phone is on, we're always on the run, we're always working. If we're students, we're always studying. Students also, young people today have schedules. That I can't believe. You know, that is so, I can't even wrap my mind around that. You know, the kid's got to be here at this point, then back from practice, then back to recital, then to dinner, then back to somewhere else. It's like a schedule. We didn't keep those back in the 70s and 80s. You just did what you had to do. But we're always on. I remember one time with Deacon Jerry and Deacon Joe and with Father Sanjay, we went out to eat, and at a table right across from us, a family of 5, all on their cell phones. Nobody talking. Not even in that moment where you could have some leisure and relaxation with one another. It was all this. Just nonstop. Now, obviously, if you work in an emergency field, yes, the phone's going to be attached to your hip. We're talking about doctors, first responders. We're not talking about the average person, where you don't have to be on the phone that much. So all of this kind of makes a lot of noise around us, fills up our day. And before you know it, we were up at 6, we're going to sleep at around 11, and how much prayer time was involved in the day? A minute? 5 minutes? 15? How about just simple quiet time, where I go into a room where I don't hear any noise, and I just sit quietly before the Lord? There's that beautiful psalm where God says, "Be still and know that I am the Lord." When we go into that kind of prayer, into that kind of rest, we learn a lot of things. We learn who God is. Hopefully, He's saying something to our hearts. Hopefully, we're learning something about ourselves. Hopefully, that relationship is getting stronger, becoming more intimate each and every day. But yet, we're kind of wrapped around the whole thing, oh, you got to do something. So we're used to saying Hail Marys, Our Fathers, Glory Be's. Again, beautiful prayers. But what about allowing the Lord to speak to me? Now, we're not going to get a chance to get 44 days of vacation. For most of us, that's not going to happen. But what about saying during the day, I'm going to at least take 5 minutes for God, where it's just me and Him. And I'm just going to put myself in His presence and allow Him to speak to me. What about sacrificing maybe 2 or 3 days of your vacation and going on a retreat? There are beautiful places that the church offers throughout the whole United States, locally, regionally, and even all the way as far as California, where somebody can go and remain quiet and be in the presence of the Lord, to get to know Him and to truly rest, right? This whole thing about leisure. I remember reading a book in college on leisure, and it wasn't about laziness, it was about taking time to allow oneself to be renewed, to be restored. However, if the noise is always on, that's not going to happen. We have to make little sacrifices. Even St. Teresa of Lisieux, even though they prayed, obviously in the morning, afternoon, at night, but she always wanted to be in prayer even more. So what she would do is during the day, even when she worked, she would take like a 10, 15-second break, say a little locution, and be quiet for 15 seconds and go back to what she was doing, just so that she can be in constant contact with our God. Something for us to consider. It's those little disciplines that help us to remain quiet for even longer. Now, I'm not asking you to become monks or cloistered sisters, right? They have a certain vocation that they're called to, and they have the opportunity to do that in their monasteries and so forth. But we still can go into our own little monastery, if you will. The monastery that's in our hearts. Whether you're at school, whether you're at work, whether you're retired, it doesn't matter, because I know you're all busy, but you can make moments. Remember what Jesus says, and let this be especially during the summer when we have more opportunities. Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart, and you will find rest for yourselves. For my yoke is easy and my burden light. The beauty here is that the Lord has opened the door. We didn't even have to knock. He's already opened it. He wants us to come through. God bless you.